In the last few weeks, I've had the opportunity to lead a couple of meditations or groups online, leading the weekly meditation group once and also leading the Medicine Buddha Puja. And in all my those two interactions with people outside, and certainly it's going on in here too, the emphasis has been on the conflict in Ukraine and how do I work with it and how do I deal with it and how do I cope with it. And I'm also working with that too. So I thought it might be helpful, or hope that it would be helpful, to just talk a bit about how I am continuing to work with that in my practice, and hope that that's helpful for other people too. Um, First of all, I want to acknowledge that what we're seeing, if you're watching the news even a little, is horrific. I mean, it's hard to watch. It's hard to see the images that are coming at us from, from live streams and reporters and so forth. And then I have to stop and ask myself, is this more horrible than the atrocities in Afghanistan? Is this more horrible than what's happening in Ethiopia or the genocide in Myanmar? Is it more horrible than destruction and starvation in Yemen? Is it more horrible than the fact that the US is still at war in Somalia? I mean, I don't know, because I've never seen it up close like I'm seeing it now. And that's one thing I really want to actually emphasize. I mean, I have been a peacenik since that word came into vogue in the 60s, and I was still barely a child. But I was ideologically a peacenik. It's not because I stood and watched what happens in war. I can imagine it in my mind and see how stupid it was. But now we can actually see it in ways that I don't know that it's ever been broadcast before. It makes it very vivid, and it's really hard to watch. And then if we respond with anger, distress, outrage, horror, anxiety, that is totally normal from a worldly point of view. Because anger and distress and outrage and horror and fear and anxiety, every one of those emotions is an afflicted mind. Every one. Every one of them. So what is our choice? What other choice do we have? So fortunately for us, we have been steeped in a Buddhist worldview. And this is the time where we have to look at it through that lens to have a different point of view on what we're seeing. Why? Well, samsara rolls on, that's why. First and foremost, there is nothing we can do individually to change, stop any of this. So what's useful and beneficial then that I can bring to this? And that's where we have to bring our Buddhist point of view, to ease our own minds. And I think actually it helps the situation in a different kind of way than going in and just saying stop and making it all stop, which I don't have that power to do. And apparently nobody else does either, because that's what a lot of people wish. So first of all, turning to that Buddhist point of view, it's not like the Buddha didn't tell us this is how it is. I mean, if you look at any of the lists of the sufferings, just really basically, we meet with what we don't like, we're parted from what we like, we strive for things that we want, we don't get them, birth, aging, sickness, and death, and then we're completely overwhelmed by our afflictions and karma. I mean, hello, it's right there. So that is something that is so hard for us to kind of see, because life isn't so bad right now. My life's not so bad right now. But this is a great opportunity for us to look and see this really is, as the Buddha described it, that part of samsara, right? So the first thing I thought was, let's go to a bodhisattva then. If we want to be bodhisattvas in training, let's rely on a bodhisattva. Who's the bodhisattva who taught us how to engage in those deeds? Shantideva. So there's no immediate solution. There's nothing we can do to solve the problem. But in August, Venerable Tridran taught on this section from chapter 6, where he says, "Whatever befalls me, I shall not disturb my mental joy. For having been made unhappy, I shall not accomplish what I wish, and my virtues will decline. So he's talking specifically about anger here, right? But the fuel of anger and all of these mental afflictions actually is our unhappy mind. And then the next verse is this famous one: why be unhappy about something if it can be remedied? And what is the use of being unhappy about something if it cannot be remedied? The causes of happiness sometimes occur, but the causes of suffering are very many. Without suffering, there is no renunciation. Therefore, mind, you should stand firm. How does the mind stand firm? Well, a few verses down, he says, there is nothing whatsoever that is not made easier through acquaintance. So through becoming acquainted with small harms, we shall learn to patiently accept greater harms. Now, I would say the war in Ukraine is not a small harm to those people. To me personally, excuse me, I'm not experiencing this. I can use this to train my mind to be of benefit whenever I'm in a situation where it can be. So I highly recommend Venerable Children taught on these verses, August 2021. Look them up and study them again. It's helpful in this process. But there are things we can do. Another thing I've been doing is listening to the Miracles talks. Tushita hosted a 15 Days of Miracles talks. Venerable Children gave 2 of them. Days of Miracles. They're quite wonderful. It's an indulgence for retreat. I can use the study time to do some of the things I wouldn't have time for otherwise. But Jensuma Tenzin Palmo answered some questions about this. And she said, I think it's very important at this time when the planet is locked in all this paranoia, hatred, fear, and so many negative emotions, that we don't add to the psychic pollution which is covering the planet at this time. Ah, what a nice depiction that is. Psychic pollution of all the negativity that is filling the airwaves everywhere. We contribute to that, she said, by being angry, upset, anxious, and emotionally disturbed. So what we need to do is to counteract the negative forces with positive emotions. And then she went on to say, Buddhism has many teachings that show us how to radiate love and compassion and fill the world with those qualities. We're doing this right now in our medicine Buddha practice. The sadhana says right there, generate this love and compassion, give to living beings, send it out in every direction. So we have our Tonglen practice, which is like going hand in hand here with breathing in the negativity, sending out love and compassion and wisdom and so forth. Does it actually change the situation on the ground? I don't know that I have the power to do that. But does it change my mind? Yes. And if you think of psychic pollution, I think it cleans up a lot. So there's a lot of power in that. I think a lot of power that we should not underestimate or undervalue our own capacity to do that. Now, I will say in my own practice, I really have struggled with, for the first time in all the years I've done this kind of practice, I've never had so much trouble trying to see light going into something and make it change. Perhaps because now with the pictures and images in front of me or hearing the stories, I'm a little bit literal about it. And when I hear, when I read the story of, heartbreaking story of the boy who watched his mother suddenly on fire from the bomb, died from the fire. 15-year-old boy. His legs are shattered. I mean, what can you do but weep? And then you get up and you say, I will send love and light. I will send something to that situation, and I will make prayers and dedications for that woman whose name I do not know. I can't take food to that place so that those people, even the soldiers, aren't eating. I cannot take food there. What can I give them? And I was racking my brain and thought, duh, your merit, ding-a-ling. Give your merit. What do they need? They all need merit. They all need merit, every one of them. And merit is something I have. I know that because I'm sitting here. It's also something I can generate every day, all day. I can make more of it. It's not like manufacturing money. I can generate merit and dedicate that merit for all kinds of things. I went back to Mind Training Like Raises the Sun teachings to look at when we talked about it is appropriate, it is suitable to offer and generate the virtues of our past, present, and future. And there was a quote from the questions of Ganga Sangyanja Sutra. May whatever sources of virtue I have be transformed into sustenance for all sentient beings. It's a beautiful wish. May whatever sources of virtue I have be transformed into sustenance for all sentient beings. So if we think of dedicating our merit, sending that so that each person acquires the complete conditions for attaining enlightenment, well, what more powerful thing is there to give? And I will say for myself, it's highly motivating to be a whole lot more conscientious about, am I dedicating merit right? Am I creating merit right now? How am I using the situation right now? Not just sloppily going through my day, doing through the steps that I need to do, but like, okay, wait a minute. Let's be intentional. Let's set a clear motivation. Let's generate merit. Let's dedicate. So we can do our small things. We can do we're doing the King of Prayer, reciting the King of Prayers every night. We're dedicating that merit. We're dedicating the merit of our practice. But every one of us throughout the day can use this, not just so the war stops. This war stops, there will be another one. Not just so people don't go hungry. People get fed, somebody else will go hungry. Not just so there's peace on the planet. We are in samsara. But our practice is such that we can cultivate the steps in ourselves to be liberated from samsara. Cultivate the motivation more strongly to be able to liberate all beings from samsara. And use that as a fuel to transform our minds. And in that way, we make an impact in the world we're in now. In that way, we become the bodhisattvas that we aspire to become. And the more we do that, the more facilities we actually have to do something tangible. And if coming to Buddhahood isn't tangible in our minds, well then, it's something we need to meditate on also. So that's what I've been thinking. That's how I've been working with it. That's how it inspires myself. Don't be deceived. I watch those things and cry. And then I say, okay, now work it. Work with it. That's our job. And I am so profoundly grateful to have the tools to do that.